So, good evening, everybody, and welcome to HeartTalk. Good evening, Marion Teo.
Yes, good evening to all our viewers. Welcome to another session on Heart Talk. I'm Marion, and of course, we have the doctor in the house. Da-da-da-da-dun, drum roll. And we
Yeah.
seem to have some guests with us, so welcome this evening. Glad to see some of you, our usual regulars who are here, and of course, to welcome anybody else who's coming in for the first time.
That's right. So, today's topic is your biggest learning lessons, your biggest lessons learned. And the reason why we came up with this topic is because one, our viewers would have had tons of experience over the years, 20 years, 30 years. And sometimes we get a lot of knowledge from books.
But I agree, we do learn a lot of knowledge from books. And of course, we always say that, right? Knowledge is power. Knowledge is something that is so important. But if you have only little knowledge, then it can, of course, be quite dangerous for us. So then, of course, there's the other thing about wisdom, right? And wisdom is definitely more empowering. So, what do you think about that?
Well, I think, we get a lot of knowledge, obviously, from information, from learning on a day-to-day basis, from schools, from books. And it's quite easy to reproduce that information because you just have to read something and it's just like our job. I mean, I'm serious about this. No offense to all trainers, but you can read a lot and you can, of course, we are trainers as well, right? You can read a lot and you can regurgitate all the information you have. And of course, it's still very useful. But I'd like to make a comparison between knowledge and wisdom, right? And I think wisdom is about our day-to-day experiences. And I don't know for you, Marion, and I'm going to share mine afterwards, but which has been powerful for you, your wisdom, your day-to-day experiences in terms of what you use nowadays or some of the information you've read over time? Of course, it can be a combination, but which has been more powerful?
Well, I basically feel that the wisdom sometimes comes from within. It comes from the experience. It comes from observing. It comes from going through life, as I mentioned, with experience. So I would say definitely wisdom is more empowering. There is a lot of knowledge. I think you're right. We have a lot of head knowledge. We learn things in school. We learn things through religion, from our parents. But, until you experience it, then the true wisdom comes. Right. And when you talk about that being empowering, I think it's not just in the head. For me, wisdom also comes from a certain sensing that you get, whether it's from your heart or whether it's just this gut instinct that kind of tells you like this something's up, so to be able to trust that. So for me, wisdom's a little bit deeper, not just in the head. Yeah.
So do you want to share one of those deeper, wise experiences you've had that till today you are still, for me, by the way, I look back a lot, I introspect a lot, and I look back at periods in my life where I can draw lessons and I still draw those same lessons and I use it as part of my daily application. So I'm wondering if you draw back from the past. We all draw back from the past, some very conscious and some unconscious. What about you? Do you consciously draw back on some of the past experiences you've had, or for you, the past, the future is mystery, the past is history, the present is
the past is history. Okay. I would say definitely there's a lot of things that have crept up in the past that remind me of certain things that I need to be more aware of. And I think that's, for me, development of trusting my gut instinct. I think in the past, I just thought it was an uneasiness and I didn't really understand where that was coming from. But over time, I've learned that, when it's feeling a bit uneasy, when I get a bit of an uncomfortable feeling in my body, then I need to trust it because my instinct is usually right and it's telling me something about the person, the situation, or the place that I'm in, right? If you talk about something that we learned from young, again, I've talked about my upbringing and my growing up with having parents as teachers. And, there's this thing that always plays in my head about everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. And whether it's faith, whether it's blind faith, or whether it's coming from what I grew up with, but that still has held very strongly for me.
Right.
Yeah. What about you?
Okay, so I'll share a particular story. And I say particular story, I think I draw some of the main ones, and that is, I think by nature, I'm a very optimistic person. So that can be good. And that has brought me into a lot of trouble as well. And with that comes blind faith. When you're optimistic, it's like everything is going to happen, no problem. And even if it doesn't, then you reframe and say, don't worry, it's just part of the learning lesson. Yeah. But that comes with trust as well. And for the longest time, which I still think I'm a victim of that, I've got a lot of blind faith, and that is I put trust in people to a point that I don't check back. And so many years ago, when I started one company, I remembered we had a discussion, and I generally will be able to say things that I can do, but I expected that other people do the same. Everyone says this is what we can do, this is what we've done, and this is what we're going to do for the company. And I was like, yes, no, these were the exact people I needed. And then when the company started, they could far from do what they said they could do. And I was thinking, I know the gifts are going to emerge at some stage, but the gifts never emerged.
Dear.
And then I realized the gifts could never emerge because it was a lie. And it took me a long time to find out the lie because of my blind trust and my blind faith that is coming. It's just not emerged. And so from that, I had to learn it one more time, go through the experience one more time for me to believe that I need to always have difficult conversations. And if I know that, or at least if I believe that something can happen, I need to see something. I need some evidence. I need to, when the rubber hits the road, I want to see some hard facts that it can happen versus, okay, I this is what I can do and this is what I've done. But people can say things, whether they can really do it. Nowadays, I really want to see it. I want to see it happen before I can really say, okay.
Well, I think we've always joked about that, right? There are a lot of members of NATO all over the world, right? There's no action, talk only, in our very Singlish way of saying it, so that's the thing. And, it's something interesting that maybe, could be our upbringing or growing in a very safe environment and being allowed to take risks. So we tend to trust very easily. Right. But at the same time, exactly while you're sharing this story, I'm thinking about, yes, everything happens for a reason. Right. So you had to learn something. You were put through this challenge once, twice, and if you didn't learn at that second point, well, it would probably keep coming back to you until you so-called learn that lesson. So for me, that became a mantra. A mantra for me that no matter how difficult the situation is, I just had to have faith that it would turn out well, right? Have confidence in myself, in the people around me, that everything would fall into place eventually. So, that's where it kind of kept me going, even through my depression, through my divorce, through my, the sicknesses and the illnesses, the loss of my father, so many things that our family went through, but we got stronger together. So I wonder what about our audience? Do you think they would have, I didn't even ask you about, do you have a mantra?
Yeah, I have twisted one mantra, not twisted.
Twisted.
It's not a twisted mantra, but I've twisted the mantra.
Okay.
And of course you've heard of this mantra called, whatever does not kill you makes you stronger.
Makes you stronger. Isn't that song by Kelly Clarkson too?
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay, well, don't ask me to sing, but yeah, all right. So we should actually find out from our audience what their mantras are, so they can type it in while we're chatting.
Right. So my twist to this one is, well, whatever does not kill you makes you stronger. And sometimes I do say, this too shall pass. Or this is another one I used to, right? This too shall pass. But, rather than say this too shall pass, let me draw the wisdom from what has passed and make sure that this wisdom becomes a big part of my life as I move on too. Even though that's past, but I'll make sure that I'm using it, not just let it pass and let it go.
Yeah, exactly. And that sometimes is a problem when we're so optimistic or we have so much faith in people and that, we believe that people are just going to be true to everything that they say, right? And so we think that, okay, you know what, let's just let it go. And it's not so easy. When you let it go, you may not learn something because there's definitely some value. There's definitely some lesson in whatever struggles that we go through. And that's why I believe that there was this reoccurrence of certain types of issues coming into my life over and over because I wasn't learning the lesson. So when I say something like, everything happens for a reason, but if I choose not to look deep into it and figure out what is it trying to teach me, right, then we don't gain the wisdom. We just get the knowledge of someone telling us that it will just pass, right? Like Moses parting the water kind of thing, right? And it too shall pass, right? So that's so interesting,
So before I ask you for a real experience, I know you kind of shared one, right? Do you have a real experience on this one?
Of course, they're all real. Hello. You get what I mean.
Wait.
Okay.
Let's ask the audience. What is your greatest lesson learned or your biggest lesson learned? Now, of course, if you've been working for 30 years, 40 years, there must be some real wise lessons, some sages in this group. So what's your biggest lesson learned? Because we'd all like to experience other people's wisdom too, which I
Of
was about to
course.
get to, but before I get there, what's one experience for you that you have lived by and told yourself this is a principle that I will use as often as I can because it's been useful?
Well, there have been so many lessons, and I think it's one of the biggest things for me is that I guess when I was younger or for quite a long time in my life, my ego got in the way, my pride got in the way, that even if people tried to teach me something, until I experienced it, until I suffered or whatever, I would never listen to people, right? So I would say at this point, it's like I have to be able, no, I wouldn't say at this point, after everything that I went through and being able to learn from my sons who are, obviously younger in experience, but everyone carries wisdom of their own. And to be able to let go of my ego and just know that everybody has something good that I can learn from. So there's always value in, and it doesn't matter on your age, your gender, how experienced you are, whatever it is, but there's been angels in my life basically, and I've been blind to them. I've chosen to allow my ego to get in the way. And so this word that my sons use, again, they're very, very involved with church work and all that. And they would say to me, Mom, surrender. And surrender to me, it's not about giving up, but surrender is letting go of my ego and my pride, knowing that I can learn from everything. Right. And it doesn't always have to be the books, because at one point I was very much into my books, right? And learning, getting knowledge, gathering, going for certification programs, going for so many things and thinking that I knew best. So I would say, of course, I've shared lots of other lessons in previous episodes, but for me, that was very important that, don't look down on anybody's advice, knowing that there's value in it. Yeah.
That's right. And that brings us to this part about how about other people's advice, or other people's wisdom? Like somebody told me once, long time ago, when I probably attended a course, this person said, you don't always have to learn from your downfalls. You can always learn from other people's downfalls.
Other people, yeah.
And I used to ask myself, yeah, but that's your mistake. And, that's your experience. I need to experience it. So this is one thing I always used to struggle with, that I will definitely learn a lot from my failures because it's my failure. But if it's your failure, I didn't experience your failure. So how am I to learn from your failure? And I really struggled with that until I came to terms with the fact that I don't have to fail your way in order for me to learn.
Yeah.
I can learn from your failures even though I've not experienced your failures. And that was a big breakthrough for me, because then I didn't have to go through all the pain to experience all the failures in order for me to learn from failure.
Yeah. So it sounds so familiar to me. See, I think every week as we talk about it, it's like we're twins or we're living the same life. Yes. In the same way, I wouldn't learn from other people because my ego got in the way. I thought I knew better, right? And so for me, I think it was really about that surrender, letting go, and just knowing that, we can learn from other people in so many ways. And that was a bit of an eye-opener, because I thought, I'm the mom, I should know. I'm the whatever. Yeah.
and hence what we're trying to do down here is to really share as many stories as possible.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Whether it's our stories or our guest stories, and of course, soon, wow, it's already 8:15.
Exactly.
Andrea Golden-Pogue, just hang in there. I think in another 5 minutes we're gonna call you in, and very shortly we'll call on Andrea, and of course we'll introduce her. But is there anyone asking anything or saying anything? Any comments, or is it?
Well, I see Andrea is here, our Indonesian country office partner. Hi, Andrea. And Michelle Hardy, she says hi to Marion and Granville, right? Quite a few likes. So comments, only 2 so far. Okay. Again, audience, please do share maybe your mantras or what is your biggest learning lesson. So as Andrea is sharing, towards the end of this episode, we'll definitely start to share some of those.
Yes. Yeah. So this could be a good time for us to call in Andrea Golden-Pogue.
Yeah, we might as well.
So I thought
we had a little bit of a sorry.
Yeah. I think we'll bring her in and then we'll talk about her in front of her. How about that?
Of course.
Rather than talk behind her back, of course, in a positive way. Because then
she's listening. Yes. Our lovely Andrea from the US. She's woken up very early this morning. So are you letting her in now?
Yes, I will shortly. In fact, if I'm looking at it, it's 7:17. Oh dear, 7:17 in Oklahoma. So she probably woke up like 45 minutes ago.
She might be an early bird, maybe she wakes up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. Yeah.
So I'm going to bring her in right now.
Excellent.
There
And
she
Andrea is such a lovely people person. I think our audience are definitely going to enjoy hearing from
right.
Andrea.
Okay, wait, the sound is still.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, dear.
Everyone this morning.
You're
Good morning to
I guess
you.
good evening to you all.
That's right.
How are you doing?
Very, very
Great.
good. Thanks so much for coming
Good.
in. You're looking all fresh, obviously after a nice shower early in the morning.
Very early this morning, but yes, it was wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's
Yeah.
talk about first how we met, and then we'll talk about you, because there's many things we want to say, and there's like half hour. This show, by the way, just flies in terms of time. And that's why I get a
Okay.
bit tight telling myself, oh, dear, I need to say this, I need to say this, but let's say what we
Sure.
need to say, right?
I understand. Okay.
Okay, so I met Andrea 4 years ago. Wasn't it Houston?
It was. It was very warm. It was in the summer.
Well, I can't
Yes.
remember about that. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So in the summer, and we were in a class, and we attended a certification, and we sat next to each other. And what I can really
Nice.
recall was this: when she sat next to me, and I heard her accent, I was thinking, I love this accent. So I used to try and create conversation with her just for her to speak a little bit more. And for me, it was just to enjoy that accent. It was almost like watching Dallas before. I always say it's Texan, but obviously it's not a Texan accent. Is it?
Yeah. It is. It actually is.
It is, right?
It's very similar.
That's what I was thinking. This sounds like what I used to hear on Dallas. And
So now we know what you were watching growing up, Granville.
Exactly.
You're one of those Dallas boys.
Dallas was great. I remember
Yeah.
it.
Who
So
shot JR?
that's right.
Who shot JR? Yes.
So let's
Maybe
introduce.
maybe someone could comment on that in the chat, right?
Yeah, you never know what comes up, right? Suddenly we'll be talking about Dallas and not the rest.
It's a
let's-
lesson learned, right? You got to keep those close to you, really keep your eye on them.
That's right.
So let's introduce Andrea Golden-Pogue. You know, Andrea is now the EQ World representative in the US, together with Mark Wilson. Right? Mark
Yes.
Wilson. And I suppose he's listening in as well, and if he's not, I'm sure he'll come in soon. And we're so glad to have you on board with us, you know, doing all the kinds of great work you've done in the past. And the reason why we wanted you really on the show is because of your heart and what you've done in the past. And I'm sure based on the kind of vocation you were in, the lessons you can teach us and share with us, you know, people don't know what you were doing before. So I thought it would be great to hear from you, you know, because I've always been in love with that vocation, right? And so, Andrea, maybe as a starting point, you know, what was the vocation you were in for I would say the longest time, but 20 years?
Over 20 years now. Yes,
20.
Grant. I graduated over 20 years ago, which is hard to believe. It seems like yesterday. But it's been an amazing ride. I look at it. I've been a nurse since 2000, and then I went on and got my graduate degree and learned about instructional strategies and training and development and some other things. But yes, I've been a nurse. I wake up every day knowing I'm a nurse, and I really knew that before I even became one. It was something that was just part of who I was. And I loved taking care of other people.
Wow.
And I think that just transferred over the years. And I remember I was selling wedding dresses and prom dresses to put myself through school and through nursing school. And every day that I went in and I helped other people make their dreams come true, I was thinking, I cannot wait until someone puts the cap on my head and that I'm official so that I can go out and help other people. Well, the truth is, I had been helping other people my whole life.
Yeah,
And I didn't need the cap to prove that.
So
that was part of who I was.
You know, sometimes people say that that's who I was. Do you think there would have been a big parental figure that influenced this, or was this in your genes straight away? I came out and you felt like stretching your hands out to help.
Hug someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I am a hugger. So it's been really hard through COVID. But yes, most definitely. When I think back on my parents and even whenever I think back to the people who were ancillary to my parents that helped raise me, All of those people are very loving and giving people.
Yeah.
They're the type of people that will visit with you and not even know who you are in the grocery store, and will carry a conversation with you because they value people so much. And I've been blessed to be raised around that and be a part of that my whole life. And so I do think it comes naturally. That's a good question, Graham, but I think it's a part of who I truly am.
Yeah, sounds like it's in your DNA. I mean, if it's with the environment, Andrea, I mean, environment plays only a certain amount of the role. You don't necessarily have to pick it up, but it definitely sounds like it's in your DNA. I mean, just listening from the way you are speaking and the glow that you have on your face as you're talking about wanting to help people and all that, I can feel that. Amazing. Yeah, so the calling came.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry. So the calling did come to you at a younger age where you knew your mission, you knew your purpose, and that's so wonderful when you have that clarity that you know what you want to do. Yeah.
Sure.
This calling thing, I can totally vouch for that when it's a calling, especially a calling to give, because I certainly did not have that calling. So that's why I know when someone has a calling to give, that's a special calling because it requires a lot of dedication and a lot of sacrifice. And my first introduction to nursing was in the military service in Singapore when I was a medic, something which I did not choose, but I had to serve in hospitals for 3 weeks. And I tell you, I always share this whenever I train hospitals because nowadays I do. And I was attached for 3 weeks, but the first week, each time I came back home, I was flat on the bed for 9 hours. Yeah, it was so tiring. The things they made us do, it's like the things I never wanted to do, but I had to do. And I used to think, wow, people have chosen their life to do these things. And I will watch them smile when they will do the things while I'm cringing. They're smiling. It's like the smile you have now,
Yeah.
Drawing blood and cleaning the things I never wanted to clean.
Yeah. So it definitely has to be a calling.
It is. And I think, Marion, that whenever I first began my career, I had the opportunity to serve with people, much like what Graham was just speaking of, paramedics and police officers and firemen that truly do put their lives on the line every single day to help make someone else's life better. And so whenever I was very early in my career, I can remember just riding with those people on calls that, yes, no one else would want to be out at that hour. No one would want to be smiling, most definitely, and helping other people the way they are. And so I was honored and privileged to learn by some of the best in the field. And I think it made me a better nurse, to be perfectly honest. I know it did, just to see those different facets of healthcare. So I've been blessed to work with great people.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that you talk about, having learned from the seniors or from those who were in the service, those whose calling was there. So maybe you could share one or two of your biggest lessons that you've learned over this period of time.
Sure. Well, and I think that for me anyway, I want to always be known as the person that I may not know it all, but I have the heart for it all. And I'm in it because I genuinely have a love and heart for people. And so one of the lessons I think that I've sort of carried with me is that it doesn't matter how much you know until people know how much you care. And that has served me well, Marion, to be vulnerable, which has taken me a number of years to get there, but to be vulnerable, truly vulnerable with people, and to share with them my heart for service, and hope that it impresses upon someone that they want to do that as well. Maybe not necessarily become a nurse, but love and take care of people, or maybe just be more, empathetic toward people in their everyday life.
I'm just wondering, Andrea, as you speak, can this be taught? Do you think this can be taught?
I do think I think there's some elements of it that definitely can be taught. Yes, if you're willing to learn. Now, there again, I think, Gran, you have to be open It's extremely hard when you've been trained, like what Marion was sharing before I came on the call about textbooks and scientific data and, all of those things that come at you like a funnel. Just it's like drinking from the water hose many times. But the fact of the matter is, if you want to know, if you want to learn, if you want to be open, if you can even be mindful enough to understand, to be open to people and be a listener instead of a talker all the time, that where that will put you in that, I think, empathy train. I think that the empathy will follow. Yeah.
So we are doing classes. All of us are we are now training the same thing, right?
Okay.
In emotional intelligence, obviously, there's one component on empathy. And I'm just wondering, when you do your training in the US, because in Singapore, we've got certain experiences. We might share that later on, but the focus now is on your experiences. How receptive are people to being empathic and learning to be empathic?
It's a struggle, or we're finding it's a struggle for people, especially in business. It's tough because things move so fast, and there's a lot of, I think, emphasis on the bottom line, and a lot of emphasis on metrics, and a lot of emphasis on just the numbers of doing business, and that doesn't lend itself real well to empathy building, and I think there's a lot of companies that may not take care of their people as a result of that. So I think that there's a definite need for what we do in the U.S. And I see our market doing nothing but growing because it truly is something that people want to know more about, want to be able to hone in on that facet of them. I think there is a facet of that in everyone, Gran. It's just tapping it. I think it's possible.
And I think people are seeing what's going on in the world. It's so competitive. We're so results oriented. Everybody's about me, myself, and I. Everybody wants fame. They want the fortune, right? And in that way, they step on other people just in order to get to that point of what they believe is success, right? And so I think a lot of people do recognize they need it, but there's that fear of like, if I open my heart out to someone, I don't want to get hurt, and, whether it's a relationship, whether it's in business, whether it's just, helping your neighbor or something like that. And that's always so sad because if you think about, like when we were growing up, society was different. It was more of a giving, caring. We live in a community-based way, and it's sad that in so many ways, technology is so important and it's helped us develop to what we are. And we have so much conveniences going on in the world. But then that soft side, right, the human side, the care, the word exactly that you use, being able to show that you care, that you love the person. I think people are forgetting it, but it's there. We just need to give them a bit of a kickstart.
Yes, most definitely. Yes.
And so our topic this week is about the biggest lessons. And you being a nurse, I can imagine, because I had 3 weeks of nursing and the lessons I learned were massive. One is I knew I was not meant for nursing, and I knew I had to leave it in the care of people who would really do a wonderful job. And right till this day, my respect for nurses is right up there, right at the top.
That's so sweet.
I'm thankful. My colleagues thank you too.
I'm sure they do. I did 2 years of pre-med and I knew that wasn't my calling. I love to help people. I love to give, but I think what I'm doing now is definitely my calling, but definitely wasn't medicine. I don't think I would have been able to go into healthcare. So yes, totally salute our healthcare workers always.
I always say I love nurses.
I do too.
I do. In every form.
I do too. But it was an amazing journey, truly. And I look at it now, especially being able to reflect a little bit. And this call sort of made me think about that, of why I made the decisions I made and where I ended up. And this is a phenomenal venue to be able to talk about this in. I want you all to know that whenever I began nursing, and even whenever I began my business and leadership, I did a lot of business. I mean, I went here, there, and everywhere, and I ran hard. And I interacted with people, and I thought that I was being loving and kind, and I felt like I was always putting the other person before myself. And then I had a personal tragedy happen where I lost my baby sister in an accident about 8 years ago. And I can honestly say to you that it changed how I do business today, even. It really was one of those moments of impact that everyone has in their life. I'm sure that the listeners on the call today, they've all had a similar circumstance where there was a moment of impact in your life that just sort of pivots you, sort of changes what you're thinking, or how you've been doing business before, how you've been interacting with people. And it can do two things, right? It can put you on the couch and level you, or it can make you better.
Yeah.
And I elected for it to make me better ultimately. Now, it took a while to get there, a lot of faith and prayer. But eventually, when I got off the couch, I knew there were a lot of people depending on me at that point. And I knew that I wasn't happy wallowing in it anymore. I couldn't do that anymore. And I hope that speaks to someone that hears this, that you can get up again and that you can learn something new even, and to bring your best self every day. What Marion said a while ago, if you're working for a company, my goodness, don't you want to bring your best self every day? Yeah. And if you're serving other people, don't you want to bring your best every day? True. So that's what I did. I elected to learn EQ.
Right. That's nice. I know it might be quite difficult to bring back that memory, but in short, I know you lost your baby sister. And how did that loss create an impact and a principle that you now hold from here on, or from the point when you lost your sister?
Yeah, there's a resolve now. Now there's a resolve that's deep inside me, that I'm going to carry her with me every day, and that I'm going to honor her in a way in which I can pour into other people the way she would have if she were here. So what I was doing before, when she was still with us in physical form, and we were able to go to lunch together, or we were able to see one another, those things, I thought I was living my best life at that point, right? That's the level of awareness that you have. The truth is, I had a lot of flaws. I mean, I still have a lot of areas to work on. But the great part is I've learned a lot of grace with myself through the process.
Yeah.
And to even make one positive step forward every day. For example, I say I want to be healthy. Well, if you want to be healthy, then you might want to drink water. Well, how often are you drinking the water? So I've sort of made a pact with myself to try to do small things every day. I can't conquer it all, but I can do a small thing every day, and I can honor her. So I just have a deeper resolve, Gran, I think now, in answer to your question. And I want to pour into other people.
That's huge. That's huge. Yeah. And that's a real significant emotional experience, which I think you can draw on the rest of the life, especially being your blood, right? Somebody who's extremely close to you.
Exactly. To help other people through accidents, it's a totally different situation, or through crises. It's a totally different situation. But when it happens to you, when it really hits you and you are not in the driver's seat anymore of the situation, it's out of your control. Yeah. Everything that's happening is out of your control. It really will I think, position you again, and put you in a place where you realize just how important every person on the planet, what your job is. And I don't mean what your job is you go to every day, but what your job is to be the best you that you can be every day.
Every day. Yes.
Every day.
Mm.
Yes.
And I can imagine, so talk about that. It seems to connect to also a big part of resilience. If you had a big piece of you that had gone missing then or had really brought you down, nowadays when you go through something like that, how do you handle it? Is it, I can't say it's a lot easier, but what kind of resources do you pick on from the past that allows you to go through this, smoother?
I will say it's gotten tremendously easier since learning some strategies related to resilience and now being able to teach resilience. I think
Yeah.
To learn from you and Marion some of the strategies there, I truly wish I would have had them 15 years ago, 20 years ago when I first came out of nursing school. It would have made the ride so much easier. Because I can remember many nights driving home after work at the hospital or from serving people all day and crying the whole way home and not having the skills, to really handle that. But no, now I'm much more creative in what I do whenever I struggle or whenever I have a really hard time. And I mean loss, of other family or the significant moments of impact, I will say those. Then now I have a creative way to handle that, and I journal now. I meditate now. I do short walks that are around my neighborhood sometimes, just to blow off a little bit of steam that way, and recenter and refocus.
Yeah.
So I think those things are all much more therapy. I mean, much more positive way of handling what I used to just bury and stuff inside.
Yeah. And I think many times, even when you do have the skills, you have to actually go down to the so-called bottom of the barrel, right? You need to really go all the way down to it's what you think is the lowest point, and you don't think you can get any lower than that. But that's where, you find the strength. And when you find the strength, even with all the knowledge that you might have, the wisdom, I feel, really comes from within. It's that character. It's that one to knowing that I'm put here on this earth for a purpose, and I'm not going to let this beat me down. I have the strength, and I'm going to pick myself up, and I can do it. So it's so much also about that self-talk that you have and that you've used. And I believe that that's what makes you who you are, knowing that you can give to others, and that pulls you out of it.
And there's a big difference speaking from a book that you've read and drawing from the life experience that you've had. And especially doing the kind of work you're doing now, when you speak about those experiences, and of course the ones you've had in hospital, can you imagine how much passion and conviction you have when you actually talk about it in class? Because somebody may just say, how do you know? And you can just say, I know.
Oh, I know.
Yes.
I know what it is now. Right. Yeah. I can remember whenever I used to deliver bad information to people, and I would watch them physically like slide down this wall, just in total grief and being so vulnerable and at a loss, at their lowest point. And now I know what that is. Now I know what that is, to stand on the wall and be delivered that kind of information. And then to have to sort of pull yourself up by your bootstraps ultimately and keep running, right? And keep doing what you need to do to be effective every day and to not waste your own life, but to be a blessing and a service to others.
Exactly. So, as we say, you only have this one life to live, so you live it to the fullest, not just for your personal enjoyment, but knowing that you have a greater purpose that you're giving to others. Wonderful. Yeah,
that's right.
You're going to teach us something, right?
Oh yes. So
I can do. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Right.
So one of the strategies, I think. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Oh, the slide.
One of the strategies that we use is this little acronym for nurse. And so I think if people want to be closer to others, some of the things that they can do is to nurture a rapport with the other person and really, use this to try to help you remember. And then understand the other person's perspective. That's the great part about being a nurse, is that whenever you're truly a nurse and you go in to serve people, it's not about your perspective anymore. It's about what the other person thinks or feels. And it's the same way in training. I think you can't ever train people or be an effective trainer unless you understand another person's perspective. And then to respond always with concern and acceptance, that's really important. And I think that this builds rapport quite effectively, to be able to show that you genuinely care, and then state and restate what they've shared, of course. That's just a little bit of active listening skills. And then the last one, explain that you're always there to listen. And I try to always end with that if you think of something else that you want to share with me, just know that I'm never too busy. I always get on that person's level. That's another key thing to do. I think that many times, I'm even guilty of this early in my training career, I would speak over people. I would stand up. They were sitting down.
Yeah.
And that's not where your best rapport comes from. Your best, offering of rapport is whenever you are face to face with that person.
Yeah.
So I try very hard to sort of, even in activity, I get down to on my knees if we're doing an activity and they're doing an activity. I get down where they are, and we visit from there. How did that feel?
That's
or what
right.
did you think about that?
That physical connection, on seeing on the same level, I think that's so important. I mean, people don't think that's something important, but it is, matching their tone, matching the energy, matching, eye level. That's so important. Good tip.
Funny. We do that very well with kids, right? Especially when we are with kids, we speak like them, we look like them. But funny, when they reach 13 and 14, it all goes lost.
Because it ain't cool anymore, I think.
Yeah.
We all want to be adults, right? And then when we're adults, we're like, I want to be a kid again.
Totally true, Marion.
Yeah. We tend to be good with vulnerable people, right? Like the old people and the really young kids, we tend to do well, much better with that group. But how's that, when it comes to work? We just lose that ability to connect, like in your nurse acronym. Now, always imagine if everyone else in the world was like that. Can you imagine what this world would be like?
Totally.
It would be wonderful. Yes. Amazing. And especially in light of what we're going through right now as a society, I think, we feel it in the world. We feel it in our country. We feel it in Oklahoma, where I'm sitting today. We feel what's going on. It's palpable. And so I hope that, just from our conversation today, as well as other people who are also having similar conversation, that they'll open up dialogue with other culture, and that they will be inquisitive and want to learn and want to be, empathetic toward each other more. That would be wonderful. That'd be a great world to live in.
Yes.
And on that note, what are things like in Oklahoma? What's happening there? I mean, of course, we can talk about COVID and all that, but generally, how are things over there?
Let's not go into politics, though. I know there's a lot going on now.
Things are great. No, I think things are great in Oklahoma.
It looks good. Yeah.
I think we're doing phenomenally well, and we're trying hard to, of course, come back to work and do some amazing things with the economy, and we're just trying to build and I think give to people and help people. Oklahomans do it really, really well. We've suffered some tragedy too in our state's history, and coming together is one of the things that we're known for, being a great neighbor and being supportive of each other. And so, we're very blessed here.
Yeah. Marion, any comments or questions from anyone?
No questions. There's a couple of comments here. Let me get my reading glasses so that I can read them. All right. So Andrea says, thanks for sharing, Andrea. Murali, also from US. This is his mantra. Every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better.
Yeah.
That's good.
Emil Ko. That's the code.
Yeah.
Okay, Morali, again, love that you have a heart for all. Thank you. Patty says hi to Granville also and me.
Yes.
So yeah,
Hello, sister.
Wonderful.
yes.
You do
My
see,
favorite mantra from Andrea: there's no failure, only feedback.
right?
That's
I
right.
think I stole it from somewhere. Haha.
Yeah, you
It
did.
doesn't matter even if you've stolen it. It sounds good, Andrea.
That's the
Right.
NLP
Yeah,
presupposition. So, but
exactly.
it's a very useful one, right?
Yeah,
In fact, there's no such thing as failure, right? I had
yeah,
a
yeah.
I had a boss before who used to say, when you make a mistake, don't call it a
It's
mistake,
a mistake.
right? Just do a retake.
Oh, okay. It's a miss. You missed the take. Just
Yeah.
retake it. Yeah. Okay.
It's like a
I
movie,
think
right?
we probably had the same boss at some point, right? Except mine micromanaged me and I had to leave. Okay.
I
Yeah.
think that
But
it's
you
a
know,
great opportunity to reframe. Every time we
yes.
have a challenge in life, I think it's an opportunity to reframe. And that's one of the things that resilience training taught me, is that ability to be able to do that and be cognizant that I am doing that
Yeah.
now, where before I was doing it and I had no idea what I was doing. So,
So
so
cute.
I'm thankful. I truly am thankful for the skills that you and Gran have taught Marion. It has been from the heart. It was received to the heart, and I'm thankful for that. I think we'll create a lot of waves across the
Yes.
U.S.
Yeah.
with that work.
But we're definitely growing together, as much as we are sharing, we're also learning along the way. This is a, continuous learning journey for all of us. All your experiences are so rich. And I'm so glad, with all our partners, yourselves in the US, Indonesia, so many countries, India, Naga, so many of them, that it's such a wonderful, and everything really has happened in such good timing. So we really appreciate every one of you. Yeah.
We have a great team. Thank you.
Okay.
Well,
But
thanks so much.
we have to look at a bit at the time. Yes. Thanks so much for coming on board, Andrea.
Like that, it just
Yeah.
so quickly. But we are so happy
Yes.
to have you here with us and shared your wisdom and your experiences from the past, especially
Yes.
allowing yourself to go back to a vulnerable
Yeah.
spot in your life and then sharing the wisdom from there as well. So
And we'll use your nurses when we next trade in a hospital.
That's right. That's right.
I can now imagine you in white with that. What do you call that thing on top? Do you call it a cap?
Cap.
Cap.
Yes.
Oh, just a cap. Okay, right.
Versus cap.
I can see that right now.
I was too scared to wear it today because I knew that the wall was white, and I thought they won't even see me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could have tried. That's okay.
You all
Thanks.
take good care.
Okay, you take care.
Yeah.
Bye. Thanks, Andrea.
Bye.
Be safe. Be
Have a-
safe. Yeah.
Have a blessed evening. Bye-bye.
Thank
Yeah.
you. All right. Wow, that was really very powerful, the things that Andrea was sharing. I really appreciated having her, and I know we've talked about empathy before, but it's a different perspective, right? And that's just always so amazing. Yeah.
You have trained hospitals before, haven't you? I mean, obviously.
Yes. Yeah, we have. Yeah.
What's your feeling whenever you do the hospitals? Let's ask you first.
Oh, you should go ahead and share.
I love training hospitals.
Yeah. Okay.
Right from the first time.
Admin staff or nurses or doctors? Because
I generally find, whether no, okay, well, the doctors don't come to my courses though. Maybe once I've had one or two come actually. Come to think of it, think about it. Well, now suddenly these memories keep coming back. I did a maternity ward once of doctors, and I must admit, just doing that class, before I came to that class, I was thinking, oh my golly, this is going to be such a difficult class. These learned group of people, but they were the nicest group of people. I think babies do help that atmosphere, right? And so they're very lighthearted, very calm, very peaceful. And of course, Bunny, if you're watching, of course, at some point you watch, right? She got me in, and she was part of that department that got me in to do that deal. And they were really very, very sweet, all of them, doctors and surgeons and all that, But otherwise, my experiences doing hospitals, whether they're admin or nurses, they seem to have a very high EQ.
Yeah. But I do see that also in some of the frontline staff that I do in some of our government sectors, where they're customer service officers, where they try really hard to, you can really see their care for people and they want to help people, and they get abused, they get scolded, they get, well, it's treated really badly because they're seen as, just rank and file staff or frontline staff. So that's sad, but nurses definitely, it's such a special calling. Yeah.
They will all, especially in the whole hospital, they'll be emotionally resilient for main reason, and that is they face a range of emotions, right?
Yeah.
From grief to death to pain to trauma to joy. When patients heal, and then of course
Exactly.
when they don't, there's the other
Yeah.
extreme. So can
Of
you imagine the
course.
ups and downs that they see every single
Yeah.
day? And
And
so
it's not easy for people to go through that. I think it takes a special kind of person to be able to deal with that, and that's why I said, like, for me, wanting to do medicine in the beginning, it was, I enjoyed it, but I never thought I could get through that kind of pressure or going on the ups and downs. And the thought of having to deal with people and, grieving and death and having somebody's life in your hands, I didn't think I could cope with something like that.
So no wonder you preferred dissecting rats and mice.
Biochemistry. Yeah, I love the research work, but animals were easy to work with.
Right. So I'd like to share something from William McRaven. So anyone who wants to go and Google William McRaven, he is the ex-commander, retired commander of the Navy SEALs. Right. And this guy is actually a very popular speaker as well because he comes up with many principles. Right. And I remember watching one of his videos, and in it he said, if you don't want to fail, just don't quit, right? And initially I was thinking, what a simple message. Obviously, if you don't quit, you won't fail. But as I dug in deeper to that particular statement that he made, I realized, if you really embrace something like that, you'll actually never fail in anything you do. And I'm looking at quite a few different things for our speakers, not our speakers, sorry, our listeners. If ever you think, when the going gets tough, like for example, I think of different assignments that we've had. And I think a common one is, not a common one, something which a lot of people desire to do, and that is writing a book. But when you start writing a book, initially, you can't even see light at the end of the tunnel, especially when you're doing the table of contents, you're thinking, oh my God, I wish I could just get rid of this whole thing and get someone to write it for me, for that matter, right? But even if you have to take 5 years or 6 years or 7 years, as long as have you gotten stuck? Because now you have frozen. You have frozen. Okay, I just stopped for the next 3 minutes. I was going to speak to a statue. Would have been interesting because you froze for a while.
Okay, it looks like my internet is unstable at this point. I'm sorry. You might have to end the show soon on your own because my internet seems to be unstable. So if I freeze again, my apologies, everyone.
No worries. It's quite interesting to speak to a statue as well. I get
yeah, because I'm normally being all wiggly and moving up and down and giggling and driving you all mad. So my apologies to everyone. Yeah.
Okay, it's undivided attention to my story, which I was thinking, wow, I've never seen that before. So, you can practice that.
You're very evil to me. Hey, we just talked about empathy. Have some empathy for your business partner. I know you actually, I'm teasing you.
That's why I was saying that undivided attention at that point. I was thinking, this is beautiful. This is just beautiful. So anyway, back to William McRaven. What I was saying, and of course we have to end soon. Back to William McRaven, whether it is writing a book, and especially if you look at what's happening now with COVID, where businesses have to turn around and transform fast. Otherwise, they'll just go either bankrupt or they will have to close down or shut. And I just think if we just don't quit, even if it has to be a struggle for 6 months or 7 months, if you just don't quit, you will get there. Why are you laughing? Why? Right.
You're smiling at me because I froze out again.
Right. So I think
no, but you're right. Never give up. I would say that is something that, always encourage as a child, don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. And you're right. Anything that seemed like a failure, if I were to beat myself up about that, mom and dad were always very encouraging. And they'll say, don't give up. Maybe it's just the wrong timing for you. Maybe at this point, and they'll always say like that person wasn't ready for you or that situation wasn't ready for you. When it's ready for you, it will happen. It was never about me being a failure or me not being ready. So that kind of always kept me very optimistic that everything would turn out rosy and beautiful. And even with all the struggles that I went through, the every part of it, every journey, every step of life was teaching me something.
Right.
And something that we sometimes ask our guests, right? Do you have any regrets? Or would you change anything about your life? Honestly, I wouldn't change my life. As difficult as it was with a few different things, there's been so many blessings that they outweigh the painful moments. So, and it made me who I am today. And I'm proud of myself and I love the person that I have become. So there's full acceptance for everything that life has given me. Full acceptance.
Great. All right. On that note, it is 8:59 Singapore time, and thank you for that session, Marion Teo, and especially our great guest, Andrea Golden-Pogue. Okay, anyway, next. We will have a break next week anyway, because the last
Yes, we will.
month we have
the last Thursday of every month, yeah,
we'll
because of my
resume,
community service.
and we'll resume
Okay.
September. Can you believe that? Time is flying.
Yes, it's so fast. The year is on the last quarter.
And we're on to the last quarter. That's right. So we will
Yes.
meet you in the last quarter, and we will be bringing in another interesting guest who's gone through a turbulent time. And this is not like the past, but something very recent and some great lessons from that very turbulent period and how he emerged.
Okay, nice. I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Gran, I think we should say goodnight. I'm so happy that we had quite a lot of our guests, our regular guests. So thank you for your comments. Thank you for your likes. Of course, big hugs and thank you to Andrea for being our guest and sharing so much.
Yeah.
So
thanks, everyone. Good night and see you in 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks' time. So stay safe. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.